Hey there, Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen, leading the movement for movement and bringing you another edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday training, where I take a concept, a strategy, something that we use in autism fitness programming, and bring it to you so that you can use it in your fitness and adapted PE programs for the ASD and neurodivergent population, wherever you are. Before I get started, of course, like, subscribe, share the video with someone for whom it might make a difference, because fitness is a life skill, and we want to bring that to our autism and neurodivergent individuals of all ages and ability levels. And speaking of ability levels, that's what I'm going to be discussing. I keep doing the hand thing. Anyway, that's what I'm going to be talking about today in this video is independence, which is a big, bold, neon sign word, especially when we are talking about the autism population. However, with regard to fitness, we need to discuss in more detail what independence actually means, because just saying becoming highly independent is very good, but then we have to break it down a little bit more. So that's what I'm going to be doing. When we talk about independence, that is typically the goal of any type of educational or vocational or life skill program, regardless of diagnosis. We want to be independent with skills that we can utilize them and generalize them to a variety of different situations, environments, etc. Now, with fitness, often the goal or the perceived goal is, the individual will be able to work out or train on their own, which is in some cases plausible, in many cases not. And I'll bring this back to the neurotypical population for a couple moments. Now, here's the reality. If you walk into any commercial gym, in the US or in any country really, you'll see people working out. And if you are attuned to appropriate and effective and sensical training methods, you'll notice that half to most people don't really have a good idea of how to train in order to meet their goals. Now, in order to understand their goals, you'd have to speak with them and have a conversation about what they are trying to do. But just walking into a gym and picking up the weights or utilizing some of the equipment doesn't make for an effective training program, because there's the gym and the equipment, and then there's the education and the understanding behind programming and technique and resistance load, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot more to it than just going into the gym. There are plenty of people who go into the gym for years and don't necessarily make progress. Look, they are making an effort, but the understanding isn't behind it. Maybe the motivation is, which is really important, and we'll get to that. So with respect to our autism and neurodivergent population, sure, independence of being able to work out and using it as a life activity is great. However, there are a few things that we really need to keep in mind. That first one, again, is the understanding of programming. Now, when we have an individual, and I've worked with several highly independent individuals who, if you have their program on a dry erase board, or you have their program on a tablet, or you have their program in visuals, they can follow along. Great. So they have the system down and it's programmed for them. I used program training also. I do some of my own programming, and then shout out to the RP app. Then I use their program in order to continue to progress my training. But back to our autism and neurodivergent individuals, for them, you can have a program that they can follow. Here's the next step: is proper load, meaning the weight being used, and is proper technique being used also. One of the single biggest things that we cover in the Autism Fitness Certification is modification of the exercises because of some of the motor planning issues that many of our athletes have and some of those strength deficits that they exhibit. Oftentimes they need a modified or less challenging variation of a squat or an overhead press or a row, and they may even need some light physical guidance in order to complete the exercise effectively. If I just have that program for that particular individual and they can follow it along, maybe they speed through in 4 minutes or 5 minutes with all 12 or 16 sets total that they have programmed. Is that an effective exercise session? Probably not. Are they independent with it? Sure, but the independence is overriding the effectiveness of the session. And that's problematic because then we're not deriving that same training effect or benefit that we would be if they had a coach. Now, again, jumping back to the neurotypical population, there are many people who hire let's get this into the effective realm also, hire effective, competent, and capable coaches and continue to rely on those coaches in order to program and to assess form and technique and give good feedback. And that is great. That is wonderful. It's a great service. And we want to keep in mind that having the coach there is not necessarily a bad thing in the long term either. The goal is not necessarily to eventually no longer need the coach, because even as we progress and we get more independent with exercise, it's a good thing to have someone watching our form, watching our technique, and being able to provide both, real-time feedback or being able to review a program and say, hey, this looks great, change this, and so forth. So when we're looking at the independence quotient of training for the ASD and neurodivergent population, more of what we're looking for with respect to independence as a phenomenon or as a result is in the generalization. That athlete's ability to take the strength skills, the squatting, the pushing, the pulling, the carrying from the gym or adapted PE class and show up in a different situation, a different environment with different people and different stimuli, and be able to perform those same movements safely, strongly, and soundly. That's really what we mean by independence. And every once in a while, we have an individual who gravitates so much towards training that they want to do it on their own. And this is a wonderful way to bridge the gap between coached training time and independent training time. If you have an athlete who has mastered the overhead press and has mastered the medicine ball push throw and has mastered the modified push-up, we can put those into an independent program, sometimes referred to, especially in the home, as homework. And I'd like to eradicate that right now. We're not referring to independent fitness or independent training time as homework just because some of the lousiest connotations on the face of the planet are with homework, but independent training. I've worked with plenty of athletes who in their leisure time, when they're taking a break or when they're in between tasks, want to go over and do a set of band rows, or they want to do a set of sandbell slams. This is a phenomenal way to integrate fitness independently into that athlete's day. They are requesting it or they are seeking it out. So there is definitely that component of exercise being reinforcing and the athlete initiating. That's the word that I was looking for. Initiating that fitness activity. So we can think about the strongest point of independence with reference to many, not all, but many of our ASD and neurodivergent life skill athletes is not going to be in them performing an entire workout session independently, because they still may need that coached guidance in order to perform the exercises correctly and safely and effectively. But in generalizing some of the skills that they've developed to an independent level to real world situations, and turning 2 or 3 or even 4 of those exercises into an independent fitness routine that they can do on their own throughout the day. There are a couple different ways to do this, but it's a giant and maybe unnecessary leap to say, okay, we're going to go from coached programming to completely independent programming, because I can tell you from decades of observing people in the gym, oftentimes the people who have the least amount of support are actually the ones who need it the most. And especially for our ASD populations, we want to support in order to improve and improve and improve those movement patterns and those exercise skills so they do generalize to where it really counts in their activities of daily living. So the independence is more about the generalization than it is being able to follow an entire workout program on their own. Can that be a goal for many individuals? Sure, absolutely. But we want safe, effective, good technique and performance of each exercise at a mastered level first before we start discussing that. And when we have 3 or 4 or 5 exercises that have been mastered, then we can turn that into some independent training as well. So that's a little bit of, I suppose, light shined on the terminology of independence as it relates to fitness programming for the autism and neurodivergent population. Hope this has been helpful for you. If there's a topic you'd like me to cover in a future edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday training, drop that in the comments below. I'd love to know what you think about this video, how it's influenced maybe your thinking around this subject. Leave that in the comments below also. And of course, if you're ready to become an Autism Fitness Certified Pro anywhere in the world, you can go to autismfitness.com. Check out the dates for your full day hands-on practical that you can take virtually, and join the movement for movement. I am Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen, leading the movement for movement. Thank you very much for watching.